Hey, it's Grady at Twin Creek Audio, back in the studio today. If you remember, a few weeks ago I did a mixing video of the new Homespun Centaurs single, Pharmacy, here on the channel. At that time I said in the video it could be the final mix, but I wasn't sure, and I'm here in this video to tell you that that wasn't the final mix, that Heath and I chose to make some changes to it. In fact, he has sent me 5 new background vocal tracks. Some of them are different vocal tracks, and some of them are just like one with an echo effect that he printed and that kind of thing. So I'm going to add those to the mix and mix the song again in today's video. So I'm back at the mixing console. Heath sent me 5 new background vocal tracks on this song to replace the single background vocal track that we had last time. So some of them have like a really tiny sounding, like a telephone voice, and then he's got some that have some echo on them, and of course he printed that, so that's not anything I'm doing. The echo on the voice is the way that he sent it to me, and he didn't tell me what plugin he used to do that, but it sounds pretty cool. Kind of a thin vocal, and then you've got another full range vocal with kind of the same sound, and then the echo vocals. All of the vocals are down here on this end of the console. I've got the camera angle as good as I can get it. I hope you can see everything here, but these are the vocals down here. The rest of this, as usual, are kick, snare, stereo toms, stereo overheads. There was no room mic on this, so we've got bass guitar, and then we've got stereo acoustic guitar, electric guitars right here. And all of this down here is our background vocals. I'm not actually sure what these are yet, but that'll be fine. It already sounds pretty good. I don't exactly know what's going on with all these vocals, but I'm sure that's going to be fine, and it's going to sound good anyway. So let me play back some of this and see what it's sounding like so far. Let me unmute some of the noisier elements like the UniVibe swirliness.
Wave your sail, you can never tell. These things you could not sell got stuck inside of fantasy, and now the price is just enough when all your life's reduced to dust and pharmacy.
Okay, a couple things I figured out is this is not, I was wondering, I did not think there was a room track. This fader is actually nothing. There's nothing on this. I just left that blank. Probably said that in the last video, but I can't recall. Since it's a mix recall, get it? I can't recall. That's dumb, sorry. I can't recall the exact settings, everything. I know these EQs are the same. Basically, I have some EQ on the kick drum, boosting some high mids, and boosting some lows with the low shelf. Actually, it looks like I'm pulling out some low mids too. These are going to be all the same as the last mix on this video. I did tweak the snare drum some this time, so that's actually not true what I just said. It's not the same as the last video. The snare drum, I'm boosting a lot more low mids, and I'm boosting high mids, but a lower frequency in high mids. Probably something lower like 3K or 2.5 this time. Normally I'm boosting 7, but on this particular snare track, and if you'll remember or you watched the last video, I added a sample, a snare sample to the snare with some ambience. So I'm not using the reverb that's on the vocals, which is the Yamaha Rev500. It is vocal plate 2, I believe. Let me double check that. Yeah, vocal plate 2, 30 milliseconds of pre-delay, and 1.5 seconds of decay time. bass guitars here, acoustic guitar, electric guitars, vocals, of course. I already went over all that stuff. And it's sounding pretty cool. The acoustics, there's no compression on that. The kick and snare are running through the LA Audio 4x4 like in the last mix. Nothing on the toms. They're just really nice sounding toms. I've turned them up louder this time from the last mix. That's the major difference there. Overheads are roughly the same, but I think I've boosted those a little bit. And I'm again using the Louder Than Liftoff Royal Blue color modules with the high frequency shelf jumper on. So the entire mix is going through my pair of Royal Blues over here in the HRK C2584 stereo color processor. So that is pretty cool too. And again, I'm doing my UniVibe trick, and I have the UniVibe on a send, on an aux send, with the Phatronics Reamper feeding the UniVibe. Then the UniVibe goes back into the instrument input of a PreSonus MP20 mic preamp, and then that is coming out on the patchbay, hitting a mult so that it's on both sides of this stereo channel right here. And I'm using the Sapphire's width control about 3/4 of the way towards the huge side to create some fake stereo on that UniVibe, which actually is working pretty well. It knocks out a little bit of the low end mud in the process, and that's on some of the background vocals and some of the electric guitars. I want to play the vocal section with these background vocals that he sent me. Just going to play that with the vocal tracks, including the lead vocals all soloed, so we can kind of hear the blend of these vocals since they're different from the last version of this. And this may be the version of the mix we release, but I'm making a video about it anyway, just because hopefully you guys will get something out of it, or at least find it entertaining, especially me trying to figure out what's going on this today.
And to see now, the price is just enough when all your life's reduced to dust and pharmacy. When what's in front of you is all you ever see. I'm waiting for release.
And I'm still using the Art twin compressor system, the TCS, on the vocals. I'm using just the optical compression in that unit on the vocals and the mono background vocal. The stereo vocals I'm not running through a compressor, mostly because I don't have another one that I can patch into in stereo. I'm already kind of using everything. Maybe I can find one, but I'm probably not going to do that. They're farther back in the mix and they're pretty light anyway. So I'm just going to seat those back in the mix a little bit and let them float around. The lead vocal has quite a bit of optical compression from the Art TCS though. I'm going to play just the combination of guitars that the song starts out with, the acoustic and the electric guitars. So let's hear that by itself. So the acoustic guitar doesn't really have any compression on it. It just sounds really good. Heath is always good at getting a good acoustic guitar sound, usually using two mics. Usually he'll use like one in front of the guitar, one over the shoulder. Sometimes it's one at like the 15th fret, another one on the other end of the guitar. I'm really not sure what he did, but it sounds good. They're panned out, not hard panned, but about, about halfway like that. Can you see that? Okay. And then the electric guitar, that's just a mono kind of clean electric guitar there that's blended with those acoustic tracks there at the beginning of the song. And it sounds really good together. Now I am feeding that electric guitar through my UniVibe setup through the Phatronics Reamper and the Dunlop UV1 UniVibe. So that's getting a little bit of that, and the electric is also going to that Yamaha Rev500 plate reverb. So, the style of music this is, it's kind of all about some ambience, and I like the swirliness from the UniVibe and the reverb that's the style of this track. So it's really cool. I think it sounded really good. Let me see what the next thing in here I want to show you on this before I finish Heath's mix and make sure it actually sounds really good. And I'll be right up front. I start on these and kind of work on it a little bit before I actually film the video so that I actually do have things to show you and I'm not bumbling around too much. I might have a tendency to bumble around. I'm still not 100% on these vocals down here. I just kind of got to a point where it's like, it sounded pretty good. I'll go ahead and make the video now. But you know, I'm a little bit at a loss on these at the moment. I don't know what's up with that. But let's pick out something else to hear out of this mix now. Now I'm going to play just these electric guitars where they start to come in and there are more layers of different electric guitar tracks going on. So that's this section of the song. Let me play that for you with these electric guitars soloed up. Now some of these are going to the UniVibe. In fact, I think all of these are being sent to the UniVibe except for this one. And I'm not actually even sure what this is. Kind of like down here today. But that'll be fine. Let's hear it anyway. Okay, I think I figured out that this channel right here is actually nothing. I must not have actually sent anything out from the DAW to this channel, so we'll just turn that off. We don't need that. That's fine. It sounds good without it. And I don't think there's anything there anyway. The rest of these electric guitars sound really cool. This one's more of a DI sounding track, and you blend it with this one in the mix, they sound really cool. This one is playing something different, and it has a tonality that's similar to this one, but it's different. And it's definitely got a little more overdrive on it when he starts laying into the part. It's fuzzing up quite a bit. So that's cool. And this is a stereo pair of these guitars. It's actually a stereo track in the box that I've got on these two channels. And that's that big overdriven electric guitar that comes in during the building part. And that sounds really cool, but I have it turned down because it's pretty loud and it just kind of comes in and takes over the whole mix, and we don't necessarily want that to take over the whole mix. We want it to come in, make it big and wide and sound cool and rocking, but we don't want it to just destroy everything. So, okay, we've got these. We figured out there's nothing there for the moment. I'm hopefully not messing up by turning that off. There's not something in here that I've missed that I actually did send to this track. But it doesn't really matter. It'll be fine. I'm not going to worry about it that much. So I screwed up, and this track does have another acoustic guitar that plays during the bridge. See, I was wrong, but I caught myself, so that's good. So I turned that back up, and it sounds horrible, and I don't really know why. And then I looked over and remembered I'd run it through the RNC, and somehow the settings must have gotten changed because it's just destroying it. Listen to this. Yeah, there's something not right about that, and not just me pushing the button. I was trying to see if maybe I had a dirty insert bypass button, but no. Sounds like I need to edit a little bit of the beginning of that clip off of there too. Let me do that and then I'll figure out why it sounds so bad. Okay, that acoustic sounds bad, and what did I do to that to make that sound so horrible? I'm not really EQing a lot. I brightened it up a little bit before. This should be the same EQ settings as the last time. Let me check the RNC. Maybe it's not in super nice mode? Okay. I put the RNC back in super nice mode because it was no longer in super nice mode. I have no idea why. I don't remember turning that off. Does that turn off if you turn the power off? Did I even turn the power off to that? I don't know. It doesn't matter. Let's see if it sounds better now with the RNC in super nice mode. That's a lot better. I think the majority of the problem was that super nice mode on the RNC had gotten switched off since the last time I mixed this song. And I also tweaked a little bit of this high frequency shelf and actually took a little bit out because we're getting a little bit of buzz and rattle on the strings of the acoustic. He's strumming it pretty hard and it sounds really cool, but that little bit of high shelf, rolling that out just a touch, is getting rid of some of that noise in the high end on that acoustic guitar track. And so in the full mix it's going to sound pretty good, and let's hear that in the full mix just to make sure I'm not wrong.
I'm waiting for release. You need some time, and I need to unwind tonight. The car's down 59. Keep passing by, it just keeps moving, and now the price is just enough when all your lives reduce to dust and fantasy.
It sounds pretty good in the full mix. By itself it's still a little bit small sounding, and I could boost some low end on that, but I don't want that because this doesn't play by itself, and that's just going to muddy up the low mids if I boost any low mids to make this acoustic sound fuller by itself. So I don't want to do that. It sounds pretty good. I've pulled it back down just a little bit and it feels like it's sitting in the mix pretty nicely. Another thing to note is I do have a high pass turned on all of these guitar tracks. The electric and the acoustic guitars on this are high passed because we're really pushing the low end with the bass in this mix. And of course acoustics, they can have some unpredictable low end with the way an acoustic guitar is built, and also the miking technique and different things, and it just sounds right. So high pass filters are on the guitars and on most of these vocals too, but not on drums and bass, obviously. You have to make that kind of a judgment call on each individual mix. You know, a lot of times I won't use high pass filters on hardly anything, and then a lot of times I'll high pass a lot of stuff in the mix. It just depends on the song and the mix, and if you think or are hearing that there are problem frequencies, you might think there are going to be problem frequencies and then they aren't, or you might not think there are going to be problem frequencies and there are. So it's not a bad thing to A-B high passing something, and in this case I've got most of these guitars do have the high pass filter on the console engaged, like Captain Picard. Or maybe that's number one. He's always like number one engaged, right? It's been a while since I've watched any Star Trek. So the other thing I can't figure out is, do I take out the old backing vocal track that we had in the last mix? I'm pretty sure we do, and so I already did. So I hope I didn't screw that up too. If I did, oh well. I don't think he'll even notice. Hopefully not. Hopefully he won't get mad at me. Now, just for some fun, I'm gonna solo up the drums by themselves. I did this in the last mix, and the only thing I've really changed is a little bit about the snare drum sound, and I've turned the toms up, but there's a little bit of difference there, so let's go ahead and hear what the drums sound like from the beginning of the song. If I can find the beginning of the song, guys. Hold on. Computers are confusing. Drums! It would really help if I unmute certain things before I play the drums back. That sounds pretty good. That drum sample with the ambience on it, it sounds a little bit like it's too much when you solo the drums, but in the mix it sounds just right. So, that's the dangers of soloing up things, and in this case I'm just doing it to demonstrate what they sound like in the video. But there is the danger of soloing something and thinking too much about the way it sounds by itself and not enough about the way it sounds in the context of the rest of the mix. Now, again, that's not something to worry about, or it is something to worry about. Again, that's something you kind of have to worry about on an instrument that's starting out a song, or if there's a section in the song where everything drops out but that, then you've got to worry about what it sounds like by itself a little bit more than in the context of the mix. Now, this song, there is really no time when the drums play by themselves, so we're not as concerned what they sound like by themselves. It's just for demonstration purposes, and to me, that drum sample with the ambience is too much by itself, but in the mix it seems to sound fine, so that's going to work, and we're going to leave that. Except I want to play you the one section in the song where there's actually a tom fill, because these toms actually sound really huge. They're my 1967 Ludwig kit, and I have those toms tuned pretty low because I really like a lot of low end, and I like a lot of sustain on my toms, especially on a slower song like this. So let's hear the single tom fill that's in this entire song and see and hear how good these toms sound and how huge they are. Hopefully it's going to live up to the description that I just gave of it. That's it. Just second tom, floor tom. Just 2 tom hits. We'll hear a little bit before it and hear that in context a little better. Wow, those toms are nice and big sounding. Big and kind of nasty. I won't make a comparison because that would be rude if I thought of a comparison for something else that's big and nasty like those toms are. That's rude. I'm not going to do that here on this channel. This is a clean channel, not necessarily for family entertainment or anything, but I try to keep it clean and slightly informational. Slightly. Okay, so the toms sound pretty good. It's probably not the greatest tom sound in the entire world or anything like that, but it's pretty good, and it sounds good in the overall context of the mix, and that's what we want. Those one tom fill in the entire song, though, I feel like I played more tom fills in this song than that. And you know, of course, Heath does some drum editing, so he probably like chose to edit from the 3 takes together in such a way that only 1 tom fill was left in the song. Thanks for your vote of confidence in my drum skills. But you know, so those toms do sound pretty good overall. Not the greatest tom sounds in the world, but they're pretty cool. I'm not unhappy with that. I'm going to see if I can go ahead and print this final mix, and maybe Heath will decide that this is the final mix, or maybe I'll do another video mixing this same song, or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just mix it without making a video if he doesn't like it, so I can concentrate more on it. But we'll see what happens when we print the final mix, and hopefully Heath and I are going to like this version, and this will actually be the one that we release. But who knows? Not me. I don't know whether it will be or not.
Wave your sail, you can never tell. These things you could not sell got stuck inside of fantasy, and now the price is just enough when all your life's reduced to dust and pharmacy. When what's in front of you is all you ever see. I'm waiting for release. It's deep and wide, those things you could not hide. They cripple you inside, and you think it's been infecting me. You need a friend to feel your pain, just enough when all you got is dust and pharmacy. I think I might be having a bad dream. I'm waiting for release. You need some time, and I need to unwind tonight. The car's down 59, keep passing by, it just keeps moving, and now the price is just enough when all your lives reduce to dust and pharmacy. Concrete behavior, grass and weeds, 5 feet from where the crossroads used to be. When nothing in this world could bother me. I'm waiting for release.
I think I messed up during the mixing portion of this video and said that I had the LA Audio 4x4 on kick and snare. Actually, it's just the kick, the left side. of the LA Audio 4x4 is the kick drum. The snare is the Symmetrix 501. Yuri LA10, that's what I have on bass guitars, the LA10. And of course, the Art TCS. And I'm using the OPL voicing on the V3 knob on the vocal setting that stacks the optical compressor with the VCA compressor after it for overload protection in that mode. And on the backing vocal, just the mono backing vocal track is on this side, and I have it on the opto vocal setting. These are largely all the same settings as the last mix I did of this same song, which was, about 3 weeks ago in another video, and I will put a link to that video in the description because I do go into some more detail than I did this time in that video, just because I've mixed the same song twice on the channel, and this time it was more refining the mix and adding the other vocal tracks. So, of course, the Yamaha Rev500 started with the vocal plate 2 preset, which is 30 milliseconds of pre-delay, and the reverb time is 1.5 seconds. I believe I tweaked that down from the default, so it's a little shorter than the default on that preset, which I think it was 1.8. I'm not sure, I don't remember, but those are the settings that I used for this mix. All the rest of these settings are relatively easy to see. The bass guitar, the detector circuit's right in the center. Attack and release are both to the faster side, just a little bit from center, and it's at about 2.5 to 1. The snare drum I'm actually compressing pretty hard, and I do have the limiter circuit on the 501 turned on and set to about +5, I think. There's no marking there. It's right between +2 and +8 on the threshold for the limiter. It's not really hitting the limiter very often though. So mainly we're getting compression. We have a relatively fast attack and release and a ratio of about 4.5 to 1. I don't know, it's right between 2.2 and 5.5 to 1. And again, it's an in-between position. I just use my ears for these things. You could see in the rack video shot during the actual mix what was going on as far as how much compression was being applied to each of the things in the mix. So hopefully that's relatively informative for you. The kick drum, kind of the same deal, pretty fast attack and release, and a 5 to 1 ratio. And I do have the filter, the built-in filter, low filter set at 50 and the high filter set at 4K. That's on the kick drum. The acoustic guitar got the super nice mode on. Like I talked about, I forgot, and that was sounding terrible because super nice mode wasn't on. So that's switched on now. We've got 6 to 1 ratio and a pretty fast attack, a little bit slower release, and just, adjusted that to taste by ear. So that's it for the rack gear stuff I used today. Here's my little UniVibe rig that I've been using on vocals and other things. With the Phatronics Reamper, the auxiliary out of the console feeds the input of the reamper, the output of the reamper feeds into the input of the UniVibe, output of the UniVibe feeds the PreSonus MP20 mic preamp, feeding into the instrument input of the PreSonus MP20, and then that's going back into the console to a mult on the patchbay. Here's the mult for the reamp UniVibe setup, the UniVibe output coming through the MP20 comes into here and then comes out of here. There's 2 copies of it which go to a stereo channel. I don't know if you can even see that. I've got a lot of cables patched in here right now, but it goes into 2 sides of the stereo channel over there. And I was using the Sapphire's famous width control. This is the UniVibe, and that's where I have the width control set. And remember, this is just 2 mono copies of the same signal, so I'm creating a little bit of fake stereo here with that. The reverb return from the Rev500, kind of the same thing. I'm using a little bit of this width control, and I've actually tweaked the EQ on the reverb to add a little bit of high shelf and remove a little bit of lows with the low shelf on that. That's yet another secret to a good mix, is to just have a really messy patch bay. If you've got analog gear, just patch all your analog gear in so you've got this big spaghetti mess of cables here. And that way, you definitely can't see what's going where in a video to explain it to your viewers. It's fantastic. Not really, I'm kidding. I wish I could explain this better, and I have done a lot of that in previous videos, but man, there is a lot of stuff running around up there for various reasons. And some of them are to print the mix back into the computer. Some of it's kind of irrelevant for the video, but it still creates a mess. So that's the secret to a good mix. A lot of stuff on your patchbay patched everywhere. And even if it doesn't make the mix sound good, it looks really cool to your clients. They're like, wow, you've got all this cool stuff patched in. Yeah, man, it's really cool to not be able to see what's going where anymore because there's so many cables in the way. So Homespun Centaur's new single, Pharmacy. And again, I don't know if the mix in today's video is going to be the final mix that we release as the new Homespun Centaur single, but maybe it will be, or maybe it will be with a few other minor tweaks. But I was glad to present it to you in today's video. Homespun Centaurs is one of my favorite projects to work on in the studio. Heath is a really brilliant songwriter and a great musician, and I always enjoy working with him. The material always comes out really well because he's a good, strong writer, and you know, some of the best songs that I get to work on are the ones that he writes. So I really appreciate him for that. Of course, Homespun Centaurs is among the links that are in the video description of most of the videos here on this channel, except for the ones that I forgot to add that to because they're old and I haven't thought about it. But those links are in the video description. Homespun Centaurs has 2 full-length albums and an EP that have already been released, as well as the single that came out earlier this year, Too Many Things, that I also featured in a mixing video here on the channel. So make sure to check out those links in the description, as well as liking this video and subscribing to the Twin Creek Audio YouTube channel. I would really appreciate those things. I really appreciate all the new subscribers here on the channel. I appreciate all of your comments and questions. I love answering questions from viewers, and I try to answer as many of them as I have time for. Same as making videos. I try to make as many new videos here on the channel as I do have time for, and I do have a lot of new cool videos coming up. So make sure to click the notification bell icon or check back on the channel every once in a while for all the new videos that are coming up. I do appreciate you watching. I hope you all have an excellent day, night, evening, weekend, weekday, hour, minute, second, nanosecond, whatever it is you're having. Have a good one, and thanks so much for watching.